This is the Volkswagen Golf GTI Clubsport 45 with an asking price of 47,719 euros. The question is, should you just spend that money on a default Clubsport or get an extra 4K spend an extra 4K on the Golf R? In this video we're going to compare everything to the normal Clubsport and we're going to take a look at this one, take it for a spin, take it on the Autobahn, which you can check right out up there, and we'll get into the video now. The question is, why does it have a special 45? The 45 stands for the anniversary of the Golf GTI, which came out in 1976 when it first was released. Well, it was a limited version of 5,000 actually, and it doesn't have that. Obviously, a lot more sold since then. But the question is, what is the difference between the special version 45 and the normal Clubsport that came out recently? The Clubsport 45 does have a little bit of a difference compared to the normal Clubsport. It has a lot of default or standard options that come with the Clubsport. For instance, you have your IQ lights, which are the highest options you can get for the lights on a Clubsport or Golf GTI in general. And also you have a full bar of LED which goes through here, which you can also get optional on a default Clubsport. On this one it's all standard. That is basically it for the front. There's nothing more special about that other than that. Moving on to the side, we do have these new wheels which are 19 inches if you have your summer tires on there. These are winter tires, so they're 18 inches right now, but usually you have 19 inches in Scottsdale and Tornado Red with a nice little line around them, which is in red, which you don't have in the normal Clubsport. But everything else is basically the same. You do have your normal brake calipers, which are the same on the Clubsport, and also your ventilated discs in the front. Further on, we do have this special trim going down here with the 45 on the end. That is not something you have in the normal one. You also have below your lights or below your side mirrors, you do have a projector which projects this line down here as well at night. Another thing that's also standard, which is not standard on the normal Clubsport, is you have a black roof and you also have a bigger spoiler, which if I'm not mistaken is twice the size of the normal Clubsport. I think the normal Clubsport just ends right where this white line ends. You can also get it in full black if you get a different exterior color, for instance the gray one or the black one. Okay, now let's move on to this back side where I think, or the rear, where I think there's some big changes. Well, not big, but amazing changes. You do have your IQ lights again, which are the standard on the Clubsport 45 compared to the normal one, which is the highest option. The spoiler, obviously, double the size, if I'm not completely mistaken. And then it doesn't look that much different. Apart from the Akrapovic exhaust on there, which you cannot get on the normal Clubsport. And it's also the first time that a GTI has actually a default Akrapovic exhaust on there. You can get that on the Golf R with an option. But this one comes standard with it, and it's a dual exhaust, which are absolutely massive and they sound pretty nice as well. We'll do a sound test here in a second so you can listen to that. Other than that, there's no difference. Okay, let's move on to the interior now. Volkswagen said that they've taken a step forward, a big step forward when coming to the interior, but in my opinion it's kind of a step backwards, or basically not taking a step at all, because there's nothing new apart from a couple of key features. Well, not key features, but a couple logos and stuff like that, which are different from the normal Clubsport. But let's take a look at some things that come standard that are not standard on the normal Clubsport. For instance, you have a 12.3-inch display with a special Nürburgring modus, which is absolutely amazing. I'm going to show you that here right now, as you can see in the video. That just changes a couple of things. You also have 15 different damping modus you can put on, so you can tune everything to your liking the way you want it. And just individual modes you can perform as well, with a lot of assists and everything. We'll get back to that in a second. You also have the wheel, which is very nice. You do have that 45 logo on there, which is the only thing that's different. Everything is touchscreen, which I'm not a big fan of. So it can get kind of finicky trying to touch everything and just trying to get things that you want to get. The infotainment system can be a little bit slow at times, which is not the greatest thing, and also it's kind of complicated sometimes trying to go into the climate modus and then trying to change something. You always have to press buttons to get somewhere, which is not the best thing. I want touchscreens actually, not even buttons. That's one thing. Center console looks pretty nice. You do have your start-stop engine modus. You have your little switchy thing, which is your gear selector modus. Well, reverse, neutral, and your Drive and Sport. These seats are not standard, those are an optional thing that you can get. These are ventilated and heated seats, which is very nice. Normally you have your standard GTI seats in here, which are kind of like an Alcantara with the GTI logo on the top. This one doesn't have a GTI logo on the top, it's just, they're very, very comfortable actually. And you obviously have that ventilated and heated in there as well. You do have climate control, which, well, not climate control, but ventilation, which goes all the way through, which looks pretty sleek. But one thing I'm not a big fan of the dashboard is that you have a mix of pretty good quality. When you look at this, very good and high quality stuff, but then up top and down below you have some pretty cheap quality, obviously because of cost saving, which Volkswagen has to do or is doing recently, which is not the greatest thing. Everything touchscreen as well up here, touchscreen, touchscreen, touchscreen. Not a big fan of that. Standard, you also have your infotainment system or your virtual cockpit, which is nice. You can also optionally get heads-up display. This one does not have that. Harman and Kardon is the sound system, which you can also get optional, not standard. But other than that, everything is pretty nice. And that's basically it from the front. We'll go into the infotainment system here now as well. So you just press the start option. If you don't want to start the car, you can just press on there. Actually, one thing about below the infotainment system is these touch controls. Lots of things that people have said is stupid is they don't actually light up at night, which if you're driving at night, you can't really see what you're doing other than knowing where the buttons are or the touch screens are. That's one thing. A couple other features that I would have personally liked if you actually just something special, you know, like because it's a 45 version, something special like a manual gearbox would have been pretty cool if you could have gotten that optional. You just have these small pedals which are kind of like a plastic finicky kind of touch. They're not that like good. I think they're the same actually as in the Polo GTI, not the best. You can optionally also get a panoramic roof. This one does have that. And in general, it is actually pretty comfortable for kind of like a small hatchback sports car. It's very comfortable to drive. These seats are very comfortable. It's comfortable in general, very comfortable. But that's basically the gist of the interior. We're gonna move on to the engine now, which is the main feature of this car. It is the same as the Clubsport, but it's pretty nice. Moving on to the engine bay, we have the exact same engine as in the normal Clubsport. It's a 2-liter V4 engine, turbocharged, producing 300 horsepower and 400 Newton meters of torque. There is nothing new to it. The only thing that is kind of different, because you have the Akrapovic exhaust, it's going to be around 10 kilometers lighter than the normal Clubsport. So, I don't know, 10 kilograms is not much you're going to do with that. But it's going to get you from 0 to 100 in 5.6 seconds. And it also is a front-wheel drive compared to, for instance, the Golf R, which is an all-wheel drive, which is gonna be a little bit more heavy compared to this Clubsport 45. So that's the engine, and let's hear the sound now.